Like, I felt like I just made myself stuck and I couldn't do anything anymore. I couldn't be selfish anymore. I couldn't just make decisions based off of what I wanted to do anymore. The period of life where you don't have anyone or anything else to worry about is a gem. There is something to be said about a woman who is willing to go out in the world and figure it out for herself before she decides to tie her entire life into someone else. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Girls in Real Life podcast. I'm your host, Mariah Clayton. Happy Monday. I've got the cozy vibes going on, wearing Justin's sweatshirt as one girlfriend should. Even though it's like 90 degrees outside here in Louisiana still, a girl can dream that it's a cool 60 outside, nice fall breeze blowing in the wind. Where do you guys live? I want to know where y'all are listening from. Go to the comments right now and tell me what state you live in, what country you live in. I had somebody comment that they were listening from London a few weeks ago. Like, it's just honestly so crazy to me. I'd love to hear where you guys are from, where y'all are listening in, and just learn a little bit more about you guys, because I feel like y'all know so much about me and like I know nothing about you. This week has honestly been so slow for me. Like, nothing really too crazy has happened in the past week. Me and Justin and Ace were all going to the LSU football game on Saturday, so by the time you guys hear this, it was this past Saturday. And y'all know how I feel about, number one, just going to football games in general and tailgating, but number two, how I feel about LSU, because your girl went to Southern and LSU was just, I'm not a hater. I'm not an LSU hater per se. I bleed blue and gold. Like, I'm a Jaguar girl, okay? Couldn't tell you who they're playing. I have no idea. But this will be the second football tailgate that we brought Ace to. We brought him to a football game last year when he was like maybe 9 months old, around that age. And now he's at the age where he can walk and talk and get into a whole bunch of things. So this shall be interesting, trying to keep him on a leash. Honestly, that might be a good idea. I probably need to order one of those kid leashes from Amazon. But yeah, that's really kind of the only exciting thing that's happening in my life this week. So lucky for my people who don't like to sit and listen to me yap so much at the beginning of the episodes, we're just gonna go ahead and dive right into our topic today. I have no notes. We are freeballing here. I told y'all last week that I feel like I wanted to do something a little less heavy, because the last few episodes, they just been kind of like right in the heart, So today I just wanted to be on chill vibes. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to be preaching at nobody. I just wanted to come on here and just like talk with my girls and have a good time. We are talking about moving in with your partner, which is an episode that I honestly wanted to do with Justin, but our schedules are just so crazy. It's just really hard for us to like film stuff together. So maybe one day I'll get him back on the podcast. I know you guys really enjoy when he's a guest, and he hasn't been a guest in a long time. So maybe one day we'll get our schedules together and I can have him on for something. But yeah, we're going to talk about moving in with your partner, what it looks like, what it feels like, the experience. Because it's one thing to like live with your family all your life. It's one thing to live with a roommate in college or even just like in your early years of adulthood. But it is a whole other thing to live with a man. And it's just a really big adjustment that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, like one day you're living by yourself and the next day you're living with a man, and it's just supposed to be this smooth transition. And I don't know about y'all and if you moved in with a man before, but the transition was it was a really, really tough transition for me. Goodness, can I talk? And I think that a lot of underlying factors had a lot to do with that, which I'm going to get into. But for the most part, this episode is going to be about moving in with a man and what that's like and how hopefully I'll be able to help the transition for you a little bit easier. Yeah, like I said, me and Justin moving in together was kind of just very unconventional. I always thought that I was going to move in with my husband. Like, I never thought that I would ever live with a man before I married them. Even something as simple as spending the night, like that just was never, that's not how I was raised. You know, my parents always told me not to shack up. My grandparents always told me not to shack up. And so that's just what I always thought, like, don't do this. This is bad. You know, like you need to make sure that you're married and that you're ready to start a family with this person before you move in with them and all these other types of things, which is all very, very true and would have been the case had I not gotten pregnant. So for those who don't know, me and Justin met, and 2 months after we met, before we were even officially together, we had a little oopsie and we got pregnant. And so that just kind of sped up our entire process of us being together, of us learning each other, getting to know each other, and ultimately moving in together. Because obviously I'm pregnant with this child. I can't be I can't be still living at my sister's house while I'm pregnant with this man's child and like all these other things. So it was a decision that we made together for us to just move in with one another. We knew that we were going to be together and we knew that we were going to have this baby. So it was just kind of like us taking that step into doing that. And it was a really hard transition for me at the time because I had lived with my parents basically my entire life. There was a moment in time where I was living in the pool house. So I was in like my Will Smith era, but I was still obviously living at my parents' house. But I did technically kind of have my own space, but I wouldn't really call that just like my own space, you know? And so then my parents ended up selling that house and they moved. And when they moved, they ended up moving right across the street from my older sister. So obviously I'm in my early 20s. I'm like 24, 25 at this time. And I'm like, if I have the choice to live with my parents or live with my older sister, I'm gonna go live with my older sister. So basically, like, we lived across the street from each other, but I went and lived with my sister instead of living with my parents. And my sister was already married at this time, so I was living with my sister, my brother-in-law, and my niece because she had a daughter at the time too. So that's kind of the extent of me living alone, quote unquote. Like, I never really lived alone. I lived with my parents. When I was in college, I lived with my volleyball teammates. When I graduated, I lived with my sister, you know? So it was just kind of like I never truly got the experience to live on my own. And at that same time, I was also in a 7-year relationship. So I just thought, like, this is the man that I'm going to marry. Like, whenever we get married, we're going to buy a house, we're going to have kids and the whole thing. But if you guys have listened to some old podcast episodes, you know, obviously, that I'm not in that relationship anymore. We ended up calling things off. And it was at that point that I was like, I got to get out of here. Like, I got to move states. I need to go live in an apartment by myself. Like, I need to truly discover who I am as an individual because I've never really had the opportunity to do that before. So right around the time I broke things off with my ex, I ended up meeting Justin like a few weeks later, honestly, but it was already decided in my mind that I was leaving to go and live in Dallas. I was going to go find an apartment and I was just going to live in Dallas for, I don't even know how long. I was just going to go and see what it was like because I'm like, I just need to get out of here. Okay. But of course, I ended up meeting Justin and things just snowballed very quickly after that. Like I said, we got pregnant 2 months after knowing each other. And when I found out I was pregnant was kind of like when all of my hopes and dreams shattered of me ever getting to live an independent life, ever getting to just be an individual and discover who I truly am outside of my family, outside of a relationship, before having kids, right? I was really looking forward to that time in my life, but because of decisions that I made, because I was disobedient to what God was telling me to do, and I ended up sleeping with that man anyways because I was listening to my flesh, obviously there are consequences that come with that, and I ended up getting pregnant and having to make decisions based off of now my family. So the transition moving in with Justin was so difficult and emotional for me because I felt like I was losing a part of my life that I didn't even fully get to live out yet, right? Like, I was very much in the mindset of I just got out of a 7-year relationship. Like, I'm ready to be free. I'm ready to be on my own. I'm ready to prove to myself that, like, I can be alone and I can do this and discover more about myself. And instantly, it was kind of like I just chained myself down in a way. And I know that sounds kind of harsh to say, but that's where I was mentally. Like, I felt like I just made myself stuck and I couldn't do anything anymore. I couldn't be selfish anymore. I couldn't just make decisions based off of what I wanted to do anymore. Now all of my decisions are solely based around my unborn child and my new boyfriend, who I'm still trying to figure out and learn as I'm figuring out and learning myself outside of my old relationship and now as a pregnant woman. So it was just a lot happening at that time. And it was really emotional for me. And I didn't want to move out of my sister's house. If I wanted to move out of my sister's house, I wanted it to be on my terms. And I wanted it to be because I was doing something for myself. And now at that moment, it felt like I was being forced to move out of my sister's house because I'm pregnant with this man's child and he wants me to be in his space. And like, it was just a mental battle that I had to struggle with in moving in with Justin. And I put it off for as long as I could. And Justin didn't really understand. He kept asking me, like, why is this so important? Like, why do you care about this so much? And of course he doesn't understand because number one, he's a man. And number two, Justin had kind of been on his own already ever since he was like 17 years old. So he had already had apartments by himself. When I met him, he had already had a home. And he already got to experience that individual lifestyle that I never really got to experience. And so he didn't fully understand like why I felt like I needed to go through that stage in my life. Why do I feel like I need to struggle? Why do I feel like I need to pay my own bills and all this types of stuff? He's like, it's not that glamorous. And I know it's not glamorous, but I just wanted to be able to prove to myself that it was something that I could do because I never got the chance to take care of myself by myself. So yeah, anyways, that's just kind of like my story of how I ended up moving in with Justin, because obviously we got pregnant when we had to move in together, and now we have a new home and our son is 18 months old now, and I'm kind of past that point to where I feel like I'm missing out on something, I guess. But still sometimes I can't help but think about what my life would have been like, how differently I would be if I would have been able to enjoy that season of my life. So the main thing that I want you guys to take away from, like, yes, I'm going to get into tips and tricks of moving in with your partner and how to live with a man and all of that kind of stuff. Yes, we're going to talk about that. But the main thing that I want anyone who is watching this to be able to take away from this video is that you need that season of your life. You need to have that season where you can just go and make decisions solely based on yourself, when you can go and explore and have adventures and learn more about yourself and just be an individual without being tied to another person, whether that's a relationship, whether that's a child, your family, right? Like, you need to be able to go and see what is out there in the world by yourself before you tie yourself down to a situation, right? And sometimes that can be hard, and we don't really want to be alone. We're scared of being by ourselves. We're scared of being lonely, I guess. But it's a season that I feel like every single woman needs to go through. And I can say that because I didn't get the chance to do that. I was this close to having the opportunity to go and do that. And I know how beneficial that would have been for me, especially at the point in my life where I was at, coming out of a relationship and, you know, being in my late 20s and getting to go out on the world and explore things on my own. Like, I know how beneficial that could have been to me. And because I was so close, I feel like I have the authority to tell you watching this video that you need to go and do that. If you've never gotten the chance to go and do that, you need to do it. Maybe you don't have the means. Maybe you're already in a relationship. Maybe you already have the kid, and like, okay, maybe that you just need to redirect or find some way in your life that you can do that. But for those of my girlies who are single, who don't have no kids, who just need to have the experience of living on their own, I need you to go and do it. Like, I need you to go and have that before you move in with a man or your partner. Like, please, please, please. I was on TikTok, as one is, and I know we all follow Clark. Like, she is like just such an amazing young woman, like has so much knowledge and wisdom for her age, and she has accomplished so much in her life. But I was watching on TikTok and she made a video and she was talking about her white couch era. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video, but I will just break it down a little bit here. But basically, she was talking about how she is in her white couch era. What does that mean? Your white couch era is symbolic of your freedom, your season of being selfish, and your season of being able to make decisions based off of solely what you want and not what anyone else wants. We all know white couches are very, very hard to take care of. They get dirty easily. You can easily make a mistake and like ruin something, have a stain on it, right? Especially if you have kids, especially if you have a boyfriend or a husband who is like eating on the couch, or maybe they're having their guys over for a football game and, you know, they're eating wings and getting the wing sauce all on the couch, right? Like, in any other scenario where you are living with someone else, you have to be hyper aware of everything that's going on, and you always have to make sure that your white couch is staying clean, because you know other people are not going to keep your white couch clean, right? And so for Clark and being in her white couch era, she's basically saying, I have the full authority to make this decision and know that my white couch is going to stay clean, because I don't have kids, I don't have a man, I don't have a dog, I don't have any other responsibility other than myself, and I know that I'm not going to mess up my white couch, so I can get a white couch because I have the freedom to do so. You have the ability to make the decision to get the white couch without there being any outside influences on your decision. And that has to be the most freeing thing ever. Like, you realize that you have full autonomy over your life, and you don't have to answer to anyone but yourself. So Clark was just saying in that video how she's in her white couch era and how she wants other women to embrace their white couch era instead of constantly trying to look for love and trying to build the family and trying to do all of these other things that society pushes on women because of our biological clock and because we're getting older and like we need to find a man and all these other things. Like, exclude the outside noise from everything else and be willing and able to fully be selfish and make decisions based off of what you want without having to consult another person. That is what a white couch era is. And I agree with Clark. I think every single woman needs to have a white couch era. I wish that I could have had a white couch era. I don't think I know anyone in my life, like super close to me in my family, that has ever had a white couch era. And I think that that is a problem in and of itself, because as young women being raised by the women in our families, they are teaching us everything that their mothers taught them and their mothers taught them, right? And it's just this constant cycle of things being passed down of what is important. And I think the main message that a lot of women preach that is important is that you need to find your husband, you need to get pregnant, you need to buy a house together, you need to start your family. Like, yes, that is important, but is it the most important thing? Is this something that I have to accomplish by a certain age or else I'm a failure? And I don't think that is true. Actually, I lied. I do know someone. I do have someone who is very close to me in their white couch era, and that is my aunt, okay? She is in her 40s. She is amazing. She is incredible. She's a travel nurse. She lives between Dallas and California, and she just kind of flies back and forth. No kids, no husband. I was going to say no dog, but I mean, I guess she does not have a dog now because she gave her dog to my grandparents because she was traveling so much back and forth. But needless to say, my aunt is living her best life because she has no one to answer to. She can take jobs in California when she wants because she doesn't have a husband at home making her stay there. She doesn't have a kid at home making her stay there. So she's willing to make decisions just based off of what she wants to do in that moment. I've always looked up to my aunt, and I've always like not idolize, because baby, I don't idolize nobody but the Jesus, okay? I've always romanticized her life, I guess is a better word to say, and she's just someone that I've always looked up to still to this day. Like, she is just an amazing example of a woman who does not care about what society has to say and is simply just enjoying her life. Like, she's traveling around the world and she's working where she wants and she's living where she wants and she's doing what she wants. And it's just a beautiful thing to see a woman be so comfortable in that and not afraid of it. And like I was saying, a lot of the women who raise us, they were afraid of that. And I know times have changed a lot over the years and most women don't need men, but the women that we are raised by, a lot of them, they needed men. They needed them to be able to count on financially. They needed them to be able to be provided for, right? Like, these are the women that have raised us and that have instilled important principles in our lives. And I'm not saying that wanting those things is bad. I'm not saying that wanting to have a man provide for you, wanting to be in a relationship, wanting to have kids is a bad thing. No, I'm not saying that at all. Look at me. I'm being provided for by a man. I have a kid, right? Like, I'm not saying that at all. I am just saying that there is something to be said about a woman who is willing to go out in the world and figure it out for herself before she decides to tie her entire life into someone else. And if you don't see that in your own world and you're in the women around you, it can be kind of hard for you to comprehend, right? Like, my grandmother, she got pregnant at 17 and married my pawpaw and moved in together like right out of high school. And I mean, they've been married for 50 plus years. They're still in love to this day, but my Nana never got to have her white couch moment. She never got to have a moment where she wasn't married and she wasn't having kids. My mom grew up in Colorado. She didn't grow up in the best family and the best household. She didn't really have a lot of money growing up. She met my dad when he was at a boxing match in Colorado. They fell in love, right? She flies down here. They live with my grandparents until they get married, and then she moves in with my dad, and they've been married for 30 plus years. And it's just like, yes, it's beautiful to see that. But did my mom get to have a white couch era? Did my mom get to have a time where she was just alone and by herself and figuring out who she is in the world and her place? No, she didn't. And then I look at someone like my sister, who is literally one of the smartest people that I know and is a lawyer and got married in her early 20s. I think she got married at like 23 or 24 years old, and they've been married for 5 plus years, and they have 2 kids together and they live together. And it's just like, yes, it's beautiful to see. But did my sister get her white couch moment? No. Did I get my white couch moment? No. And another thing I think that really broke my heart when I did have to move in with Justin was that I felt like I was going to live out that dream for all of my sisters. You know, I have an older sister, there's me, and I have a younger sister, and then I have younger sisters. We're not about to get into the family tree, okay? Just keep up. But yeah, both of my sisters, my older one and my younger one, they had kids really early on, and I was the one that was going to be the cool auntie. I was going to be the auntie that was traveling and that got to move out and that got to, right? Like, I was going to be the one that did it for all of us, and I could tell them about the experience. So I think when I ended up getting pregnant and I had to move in with Justin, it was just another like arrow to the chest, because I felt like I was letting my sisters down. I was letting my mom down, you know, like I didn't get the chance to live out what they never did. And I'm not saying that, you know, they wanted me to do that. I think I just put that on myself to be able to have the experience for all of us. And so when I didn't get to have that experience, I think it just kind of made it a little bit harder, because I was like, I was supposed to be the one who like got to experience this for everybody, and I let everybody down. But aside from that, now that I know how important the white couch era is and being selfish is and being an individual is, I can now help teach that to my own kids. I can now help teach that to my nieces. I can now help teach that to my younger sisters who are 13 years old, who say that they don't want kids. And I'm like, yes, like go, you know, like we need to just let women want what they want. And I know my younger sisters, they are 13 years old and they don't really know what they want at this moment, but they know that they have a lot of nieces and nephews that are a handful and they don't want to deal with that. So I'm not going to be the one to tell them, well, you need to have kids and you need to settle down. Like, no, if they tell me, I actually don't want to have kids, I want to be like our auntie and I just want to go and live wherever I want, do whatever I want, we need to be able to praise that without condemning women for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to be able to lift them up and let them live out that dream of going and doing whatever they want to do without having to do it by society standards. So yeah, I'm the one rooting in the corner like, yeah, you don't need to have no kids. What you got all these nieces and nephews. You don't need to have no kids. You don't need to have a man if you don't want, right? Like, I'm gonna be the one instigating that and being like, get out of here, right? Like, go live your life. And I think that if more women who raised us would have uplifted us in that way, would have encouraged us in that way, a lot of us wouldn't be in situations that we're in. A lot of us wouldn't be in situations where we feel like we can't go anywhere because we need a man to provide for us. A lot of us wouldn't feel like having the pressure of having kids by a certain time because our biological clock is running out. If we would just let women do what they want to do, we would all just be better off. The women who want to get married young and have kids young, go do that. The women who never want to have kids at all, go do that, right? Like, we just need to be willing to encourage women in whatever it is that they want to do. Because I think the overall message that us as women get in general is that we have to sacrifice our desires and our dreams and our aspirations in order to fit into this mold that society has made for us. Like, I feel bad for the girls who date the same guy all the way through high school and their boyfriend makes them go to the same college as them because they don't want to be apart from them. I feel bad for the girls who get their dream job offer miles away from their hometown, but the guy that they're with doesn't want them to go, so they stay. I feel bad for the women who had children at 17 and 18 and 19 years old and never even fully got the chance to live, right? Like, those are the sacrifices that we make as mothers and partners and friends. We feel like we have to sacrifice our own desires to be able to cater to someone else's. We feel like being selfish is a bad thing when it's really not. The period of life where you don't have anyone or anything else to worry about is a gem. Like, that could be the most beautiful parts of your life. But because you're afraid, or because someone is telling you that you shouldn't, or because you ended up getting pregnant or some type of situation happened to where now you can't go and explore life, you stay. And it's just a hard pill to swallow, you know? So that's why I really wanted to make this video, is to just kind of tell women who are listening that, like, you don't have to do this by the book. You don't have to tie yourself down so much into a person that you lose yourself completely and you lose your desires and your dreams completely. Like, there will come a time where you get to be in your wife era. There will come a time where you get to be in your mother era. There will come a time where you get to do all of the things that society tells you is the most important thing. There will be time for that if that's what you want. But right now, in this moment, is your white couch era, is your single era, is your no kid era, is your no ring on my finger era, right? Like, even if you are in a committed relationship and y'all aren't married, like, you still have the freedom to go and do and explore and figure out who you are outside of that relationship. Like, you do not need to feel the need to tie yourself down, to stay in this box and just like live here forever, because I promise you nothing in that box is going to change. Nothing in that box is going to change. You're going to get the marriage, you're going to get the kids, you're going to get the life that you want. Like, it's going to be there. This moment is fleeting. This time in your life, in your late teens and early and mid 20s, this is where all the self-growth, self-development, personal, like, everything happens here in this time period. And you have so much time left to do everything else. I promise you do. Even though society tries to tell you that you don't have the time, you have the time. Women are having kids at 40 years old. Okay? Women are getting married at 35. You know, like, times are changing, and you don't, unless that's what you really want, you don't have to succumb to that lifestyle if you don't want to. And if no one else has told you that, Big sister Mariah is going to tell you that, okay? Because I wish someone would have told me that. I wish someone would have told me to just go and live my life. Like, there's so much more out there for you to discover. This life will always be here, but like this chance and this moment will go by in an instant if you don't take advantage of it. So yeah, anyways, that's my advice of what you need to know before you move in with a man, okay? Like, learn more about yourself, be an individual first. But when the time comes for you to move in with a man, or when the situation arises to where you have to move in with a man like myself, the transition is hard. It's something new that you're going to have to navigate, because let's just face it, living with a man is just weird. Okay? They're a completely different species in their own right. And living with a man outside of your father or your brother is just kind of like a culture shock. So if you've been dating a guy for a long time and y'all are ready to take that next step, if you just got married and you're moving in with a man for the first time, if you got pregnant like me and now you have to move into a home with a man, like, these are the things that you can expect. Number one, you can expect them to be in your space at all times. Like, I don't know what it is about men, but when you move in with them, they just act like they never lived life without you. Does that make sense? Like, they act like all the time that they lived by themselves never even happened, because now you're here and now they literally don't know what to do without you being here. So they're always just going to be in your space. Like, they're always just going to want to be around. And that's not a bad thing, but to someone who is used to just not that, it can be a little bit annoying. That was something that I had to get used to. Even to this day, like, I will be in the room and Justin will be out on the couch and he'll just randomly come in the room, walk around, doesn't have to say anything, doesn't need to do anything. He just coming in the room to be by me, to be in my vicinity. And then he just kind of like leaves. And I'm like, what was the point of that? Like, why do you feel like you have to just come in here? Like, we can't even be in two separate spaces without him being like, what are you doing? Why are you not in here? And it's like, because I just need a minute. Like, I just need some space to myself. Another thing that you can expect, unfortunately, is that either A, they will always leave the toilet seat up, or B, they won't put the toilet seat up, but they will have pee on the toilet seat because they didn't put the toilet seat up. So yeah, one of those two things. They're either going to always have the toilet seat up, or they're going to have pee on the toilet seat because they didn't put the toilet seat up because you're complaining about them leaving the toilet seat up. So it's just like a lose-lose situation, honestly, because yeah, it just is. You're either going to have to put the toilet seat down or you're going to have to wipe pee off the toilet seat. So it's like, pick your poison, dude, you know? It's just a constant reminder that you're gonna have to tell them, you know. And even though they try to be careful and they like do the little drip or whatever, like, sometimes you don't get it all off and it just drops on the toilet, and like, that's okay, but just clean it up, you know. What's another thing you can expect? I'm literally thinking these off the top of my head because, like I told y'all, I don't have no notes. I have literally no iPad today, so I'm coming up with this off the top of my head. Oh, you can expect for them to leave their laundry on the floor. Yep. Sorry, the light's going out again, guys. The sun is, she's playing with me. But yeah, you can expect them to just kind of leave their laundry everywhere. This is so annoying to me that Justin does this, but like, he will take off his shoes in the living room, his shoes and his socks in the living room, and then he'll come in the bathroom and like take off all of his clothes and leave them on the bathroom floor, and then he'll go in his drawer and try and put on a t-shirt and some shorts, but then leave the drawers open and leave t-shirts hanging out of the drawers. And it's like, am I literally living with a 5-year-old? Like, can you please put your clothes in the hamper, like, bring your shoes to the closet, close the drawers when you finish, right? Like, that's probably the number one thing that annoys me with Justin. I don't know if every guy is like this, but Justin definitely is. And I always have to tell him, like, babe, can you close the drawer? Can you get your shoes out of here? Can you do this? Can you do that? Because he just mindlessly, I guess, doesn't care that it's there because he knows I'm going to pick it up. But like, do. Pick up your stuff. Like, I'm not the maid around here. Like, go ahead and get your own stuff. Oh, the fourth thing that I think I'm gonna say is that their phone volume, like when they're watching TV, yes, but also just like when they're watching videos on their phone and stuff, it's always, y'all, it's always loud. I don't know if it's because guys listen to loud music in their cars that like their ears just they can't hear anything anymore. But like Justin will have the TV volume on like 30 or 40, and then he'll have his phone volume all the way up when we're sitting on the couch and he's watching TikToks and stuff. And I'm like, that is so loud. Like when I have my phone volume on, it is literally on like the lowest that it can go, or like second lowest that it can go, because I hear perfectly fine. Like I don't need the TV to be on 30. I can do with it on like 12 and be okay. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the guys, they like to blast everything, surround sound at all times. I don't know, but yeah, that's so annoying for me. Okay, the last thing that I'm gonna talk about of like what you can expect with living with a man. I mean, I'm sure there's tons that I could like talk to you guys about, but I'm just gonna do 5. The fifth and last thing that I'll say is that they always try and talk to you at the most inopportune time. Like we will be sitting in silence doing nothing, and like Justin will not talk to me. The minute I get up and try and go do something, he want to have the longest conversation in the world. I could be trying to read a book. I could be going to the bathroom. I could be trying to do laundry or like do any kind of chores in the house, whatever, or just trying to relax. And he will come and have a full blown conversation with me when 20 minutes ago we were in the same area sitting in silence, not talking about anything. And I'm like, why you couldn't bring this up when we were already, together, and we were already like not talking or not doing anything. And now the minute I decide to do something, now you have everything in the world to say. Like, I don't know what's up with that. There has to be some kind of study somewhere about the reasoning behind this, but it's honestly, it's just funny. These are the types of things that you're going to have to deal with when you move in with a man, unfortunately, and it's just something that you have to accept. I honestly feel like now that we have social media and we can kind of get an inside look into everyone's life, men are the same. Like a lot of men kind of do all of the same things. So that's why I know I'm not alone when I'm saying these things that I'm saying. But like, it's just so funny that they're all just stuck in their ways and they all kind of do the same things and act the same way. Like, is there some kind of men training that goes on somewhere? Like, I don't know. But it is just the funniest thing when I see videos like my boyfriend sits on the toilet for 20 minutes going to the bathroom, and I'm like, yeah, does every guy do that? Like, what is up with that? But yeah, I guess some more serious things that you should do when you move in with a man is to just like discuss your expectations, because this is going to be the precedent moving forward of how you guys are going to navigate this new normal for you guys. Is just like, who's paying what bills? Like, how are we splitting finances if we're splitting them at all? Whose job is it to cook dinner? Are we going to take turns? Is this solely my responsibility? Who's going to go do the grocery shopping? Like, who's taking inventory of everything that we need at all times? Who is getting in charge of what chores? Who's doing the dishes and the laundry and mopping? And who's doing the sweeping and wiping off the counters and cleaning the bathrooms, right? Like, I don't know what that's going to look like. That's going to look so different for everybody, all these expectations. But this is what you have to do. Like, you have to hash all of that stuff out in the beginning, because if you don't, the lines are going to be too blurred, and you're going to realize that one person is doing more than the other person. And then there's going to be this built up of just like resentment, and it doesn't happen on purpose. But at some point you do start keeping score and keeping tally of like who's doing what, who's spending the most money, who's doing the most things around the house. And you start to harbor this resentment, especially if it's you doing the what you feel like is a lot of the work, you start to harbor this resentment towards your partner because you feel like it's not really a partnership. You're just the person that's doing everything. So really being able to communicate and like set those expectations very early on, hopefully before you move in with one another and y'all decide this is what our day-to-day life is going to look like going forward. This is what the chores are going to look like. This is what the finances are going to look like. This is what the responsibilities look like. I feel like you will have an easier transition because everyone will know their role, what they're supposed to do, what they're supposed to be taken care of. And when you see that it's not met, you can bring it up and be like, hey, look, you said you were going to take out the trash and the trash is still sitting here. So like, what's really going on? But again, that way there's just like no confusion on who's doing what. And y'all are always constantly communicating when you feel like someone is not doing their part. But honestly, y'all, besides that, I feel like that's really it. You know, like you set those clear boundaries, you set those expectations, you prepare yourself for what you know is gonna, like, you prepare yourself for the way that your man lives. Like you need, and a lot of this you're not going to fully understand until you do live with them. Like you're not going to know what time they wake up every single day. You're not going to know how they brush their teeth. You're not going to know what their morning routine is. Do they turn on the TV as soon as they wake up? Do they put on music? Do they listen to a podcast? Right? Like there are a lot of things that you're not going to know or experience for yourself until you move in with this person. And each person is different, even though a lot of guys have the same kind of qualities, I guess, characteristics. They still have their own little things and quirks and routines that they have for themselves. So that's something that you're really not going to figure out until you're in the moment with them and until you're seeing them in their day-to-day life. Some things might give you the ick, honestly. Some things you might be like, I did not know that you did that and it's freaking me out, but I love you. You know, like there are just going to be things that you have to accept about your person and things that you're going to have to learn how to live with probably for the rest of your life, especially if you're married. But yeah, that's just pretty much all I have to say. Like, I don't really know. Like, it's going to be different for everyone. It is a transition, especially for us as women. And it takes a lot to try and figure out how you guys are going to live life together. And it just comes with time. Me and Justin are 2 years into this thing and we still don't have everything figured out. I definitely don't have everything figured out. And like, we still open up conversations that we had 2 years ago to see if, do we still feel the same way about this? Do we still like the way that chores are being distributed? Do we still like the way we're parenting? Do we still like the way that finances are being separated and who's paying for what, right? Like these are conversations that you're going to constantly have to revisit. There could be a lot of life situations and issues that come up. Maybe someone loses their job. Maybe someone gets a raise. Maybe, y'all do end up getting pregnant and now you have to figure out a new financial thing between you guys. And it's a lot that's going to come, that's going to go. It's ebb and flow. But nonetheless, it is a beautiful thing to be able to integrate your lives together as partners and figure it out together. It is nice to have someone to rely on. It is nice to not have to do everything by yourself. It's nice to have company. I'm not going to knock that at all. Like this episode was not to bash people who are living with their man or who like want to live with their man. Like, girl, I live with my man, like I just wanted to tell you guys it's okay to not have that. But then when you do get that, okay, this is how you're going to do that and how you're going to make that transition as smoothly as possible. And again, everyone is different. You might find that you blend in perfectly with this person and y'all don't have any issues and any troubles, and like that's fine. But I feel like most people and most couples have a lot of kinks to work out along the way, and that is fine as well. It's a learning curve for the both of you. Because even if you have lived with people before, you've never lived with this person before. And that's always going to cause you to have a learning curve and to have to get to know a person on a deeper level. But yes, it is a beautiful thing to be able to have a partner and someone that you can count on and someone that you can do the mundane stuff with, right? Like that's what this is all about. Life is to find beauty in the mundane things, to be able to live happily and peacefully with someone who makes the mundane things feel extraordinary. And that's my wish for every single person watching this video, is that you find someone who makes you feel like the mundane is extravagant, and it's just the best thing that you can experience in your day-to-day life, because this is the person probably that you're going to be with forever, and you don't want it to be boring, you don't want it to be lackluster, you don't want it to be loveless, you want it to be full of love, you want it to be the most amazing experience of your life, and you want to be able to romanticize it. And every single woman deserves that, if that's what they so want. Every single woman deserves to live with someone who cares for them, who loves them, who allows them to be fully themselves, and they don't have to put on a mask every single day. They don't have to deny themselves every single day. You know, you need someone who is willing to let you have your alone time. You need to be with someone who is willing to let you still go after your goals and your dreams in spite of what it might mean for the family as a whole. You know, you need someone to encourage you to go and be your very best self. And I hope and wish that for every single person watching this video. And if you are not in a relationship, nowhere near that stage of your life yet, please enjoy this moment, embrace it, and figure out things about yourself so that when you do get to this point in your life when you're living with someone, you are whole and you are not counting on someone to fix you. You are not counting on someone to complete you, right? Like you are counting on someone to complement you in your daily life and to make your life easier. That's the point that you want to get at. So anyways, I'm rambling at this point. Like I said, I don't got no notes. So we just out here. But yeah, that's all that I have to say, I think. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I know it was kind of all over the place, especially because I didn't have any notes, but hopefully you took something from it. If you did, be sure to subscribe to the podcast. Go ahead and leave me a nice comment, a review, a 5-star rating. You can also follow us on all of our other social media platforms at Girls IRL Pod. And yeah, that's all I got to say. I love you so much. I hope you have a great Monday, a great week, and I'll talk to you in my next episode. Bye.